All right, welcome. Today, let's dive into something super interesting, forecasting. We're going to pull back the curtain on how experts predict all sorts of patterns that repeat themselves, like a company's quarterly sales or the demand for ice cream every summer. It's all about finding that hidden rhythm in the data. So, yeah, how do you predict something that's, well, predictable? It's kind of funny when you think about it. We all feel these rhythms, right? That insane rush at the mall in December, the way our electricity bills spike during a summer heat wave, or even that line at the coffee shop that's always there at 8 a.m. The thing is, these aren't just random flukes, they're patterns. And there's a really powerful way to see them coming a mile away. Okay, let's make this real. Take a look at the average monthly temperatures in Boulder, Colorado. You can see the pattern immediately, right? It gets warmer in the summer, colder in the winter. That's a classic seasonal rhythm. But look a little closer. It's not a perfect, smooth curve. Some winters are colder than others. Some summers are a bit milder. And that messiness right there, that's what makes this whole thing such a cool puzzle to solve. So how do we deal with that mess? Well, we've got to break it down. See, the secret is that even the most chaotic-looking data usually has a surprisingly simple structure hidden inside. We just need to know how to find it. And the tool for the job is called time series decomposition. It's basically the key that unlocks that hidden structure. The whole idea is to take our data and split it into its three main building blocks: the overall trend, that repeating seasonality, and then, well, everything else. We just call that error, or random noise. And what's amazing is the formula at the heart of this is super simple. Basically, you can think of any single data point as just three things added together: the underlying trend, the up and down of the season, and any random error. By pulling them apart, we can understand each piece on its own, which is way, way easier than trying to tackle that whole messy picture all at once, right? Okay, so that's the what. But how do we actually do it? Turns out there's this really logical five-step process. Think of it like a recipe for taking that messy data and turning it into a forecast you can actually use. This is our roadmap. First, we find the underlying trend. Then, we figure out the seasonal pattern. Now, the really clever part is here. We temporarily remove that seasonal pattern so we can see what's left more clearly. Then, we can forecast the simple parts on their own, and at the very end, we just add it all back together. Let's walk through it. So step one is finding the trend, and our main tool for that is something called a moving average. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like you're ironing a wrinkled shirt. The moving average acts like the iron. It just smooths out all those seasonal bumps and wrinkles so you can see the flat underlying trend that was hiding underneath all along. Okay, so once we've ironed out the trend, we can move on. First, we measure that repeating seasonal pattern. How much hotter is an average July? How much busier is a typical December? Then, once we have that pure seasonal effect, we do something that sounds kind of weird at first. We literally subtract it from our original data. And what you're left with is what we call a deseasonalized series, a much cleaner picture of your data without that predictable rhythm getting in the way. And now for the final, really elegant part of this whole thing. Instead of trying to predict that messy, complicated original data, we just predict the simple parts separately. We just extend the trend line out, and we already know what the seasonal pattern is going to be because it repeats. Then we just add them back together. It's a classic divide and conquer move, and it makes a really hard problem a whole lot easier. All right, so now we get the basic recipe, but let's look under the hood for a sec, because there's a really important detail about how this works in the real world. We need to make a key distinction here.
And that's this really crucial difference. When you're just analyzing history, you can use what's called a pure decomposition, where you look at the whole timeline to see what happened. But when you're forecasting, you can't cheat. You can't look into the future, right? So for that, we use a forecasting decomposition, which only uses the data we have right now. It's really the difference between being a historian, looking back, and being a futurist, trying to look forward.
So all that five-step process we talked about is the basic logic. The pros have more powerful tools that kind of automate this whole thing. You'll hear names like the Holt-Winters method or the super robust Census X12. Just think of them as the pro-grade power tools that are built on the very same ideas we just walked through. Okay, so this might all sound a little abstract. Why does any of this actually matter? Well, it matters because being able to look at a mess of data and pull out a clear signal, that's the difference between just guessing and making a really smart, informed decision. And I think this quote just nails it. Forecasting isn't about having a crystal ball. It's about understanding the components of the past to make an educated guess about the future. See, it's not magic. It's not a crystal ball. It's a logical process of learning from what's already happened to make a much, much better guess about what's coming next.
So if you're going to remember just a few things from all this, here's what they should be. First, remember that complex patterns can almost always be broken down. Those fundamental building blocks are trend, seasonality, and error. By pulling those apart, we can finally see the true signal through all the noise, and that, at the end of the day, is how we turn a bunch of data into a much better prediction.
So, I'll leave you with one final question to think about. Look around your own world, your work, your hobbies, your daily routine. What are the predictable, repeating patterns in your world that you could start seeing not just as random noise, but as a mix of trend and season? The first step to forecasting the future is learning to read the rhythms of the present.